Hello viewers, here is a Kenmore VN. This, I believe, is an oscillating model, and the number is 336.80120. I was told this worked, but there was a problem with the switch. And I'm not even going to test it before I investigate the issue, because there is very obviously something wrong with the switch. So we're gonna have to get in there and try to figure out what went wrong with that switch. So looks like we have 4 screws on the bottom that will hopefully reveal the switch. The screws are released, and before we go any further, I just want to say that I think there's something wrong with the way this is assembled, because there's no way that you could use, well, maybe if you press that in, but this doesn't seem right, because this should be, I think, like that. If it makes any difference, I don't know, but it could be a sign that at some point somebody was tampering with the controls or something like that. So let's see if we can tilt this up here at a better angle and prop that up with something so that's not straining the other components. And here is the inside of the switch. And so what transpired is pretty obvious to me. This just broke, and so now we can no longer operate the switch from the outside. And from the looks of this, it has been tampered with. There appears to be glue on here, and I suspect this is not the first time that this is broken. So these contacts are kind of dirty. I'm sure they could fairly be cleaned after all these years, but ultimately they probably work just fine. This is scary as can be with the way that flexes. Oh my goodness! So that's going to get replaced, and ultimately, I guess we could test it now. Something seems a little off here. I find it hard to believe that that's just supposed to kind of stick there like that. Something's a little off about that as well. But now that we can at least test it, let's go ahead and do so. So I'm going to put this back on. I'll just set it like that. I'm not going to screw it back in. Set that like that. Turn this upside down here, or right side up rather. And I think it's going to be on low. The guard's kind of loose, but I don't think it's loose enough to cause any collisions with the blade. So I have to spend a few minutes to get this cord undone. It drives me nuts when people wrap cords on things like this. Clearly the cord has been severed at one point and has also been repaired, so we're going to redo that as well. But now I think, oh dear, now I think we're ready to give it a test, so let's see what happens. Okay, it's starting to work. The motor's very quiet. I don't hear anything from the motor. And one of the blades is severely bent. That's why it's shaking so much. That's moving some air. Let's see if I can disengage the oscillator. I don't know if that's why it's stiff or just the bearings are stiff. Starting to pick up some speed now. Well, the bearings don't seem too stiff. It may just have a nice slow low. Okay, let's go up to medium. A little more power to it now. Very, very quiet. The airflow is not impressive, but it's there. For the amount of noise it's making, of course, if the guard wasn't shaking. For the amount of noise it makes, it's throwing a good amount of air. Alright, and we're not going to run it for too long like that because it's wrecking the bearing. Jeez. Okay, and now let's go up to high. I may have to cut this off if it shakes too bad. Yeah. Okay, I can't run it up to full speed yet. Since this is really, really off, this blade, oh, I see what the problem is. Yikes. Jeez, this thing is taking a lot of abuse. That's the problem right there. That's why it's all bent. I'm just going to bend that back into place, but we're going to have to do this very carefully, and quite frankly, I'm not sure I even want to run it with that much of the metal detached. It's not irreparable. Could probably fix that with the WB weld or whatever that stuff is. Well, that fixed the balance issue. I don't know if I really want to run this up at full speed or not. Well, I guess I'll give it a try. Okay. So easy to balance that. Alright, so it does run, and this is going to be a pretty easy repair. What's not going to be so easy is dealing with the blade, because I mean, realistically, I think it's got enough metal on there to be safe still, but I would be much more comfortable with it if I could patch that up somehow. So anyways, there's a, whoops, there's an old Kenmore fan, and it's going to be a project piece, but I think we'll be able to get it cleaned up pretty nicely.